This older lady gave some new home residents the fright of their lives shortly after selling her house. She was unable to live in her family home anymore and reluctantly agreed to sell the property. She sold everything but refused to part with this one particular old shed. Then, the new owners looked inside. Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Olivia had lived in the old farmhouse for over 60 years. She and her husband, Walter, had built it from scratch. Brick by brick, room by room, it had become their home. They raised their children there, hosted birthdays, holidays, and lived a life full of laughter, love, and small-town charm. Even after Walter passed away 5 years ago, Olivia clung to the place. It was more than a house, it was her heart. But as the years wore on, so did Olivia's strength. Olivia's children began to worry. The home she once ruled like a queen was slowly becoming a burden. She simply couldn't keep up anymore. After much thought and many sleepless nights, mostly caused by her children's pressuring her to sell the place, Olivia caved. She gave her children permission to sell the house. Her children didn't waste time. They had seen it coming for years and were quietly relieved when she agreed. They loved the house as well, but they loved their mother more. Real estate agents began visiting the property. They were impressed by the land, the history, and the well-maintained structure. The agents had expected to be handed over a key so they could inspect the property and its assets alone. But Olivia only agreed on a scan of the area if she could be present. The agents were eager to catalog everything on the property. There was the barn, the orchard, and even the tiny old playhouse from when the kids were small. Olivia didn't mind them cataloging at all, except when their eyes landed on the small wooden shed at the back of her land. Every time they glanced toward the shed, Olivia's mood shifted. She'd wave her hand dismissively and said, "That old thing? Not for sale." She'd chuckle, making it sound like a joke. The realtors would laugh along, but then she'd firmly steer them away. The shed wasn't anything special at first glance, just a tiny weathered structure tucked beneath the trees. Olivia's children never came into that place. When they were younger, they weren't allowed inside because, according to their parents, there were dangerous sharp tools inside. And when they got older, they simply never felt the urge to head inside anymore. So Olivia never had to intervene. Eventually, buyers came and went. One young couple was particularly charmed. They adored the cozy kitchen and sprawling orchard. But they did ask, more than once, "What's with the shed?" Olivia just smiled. "That's not part of the deal," she'd say jokingly. When it came time to finalize the sale, Olivia's lawyer included a strange clause. The shed and the small patch of land around it would remain in her possession. Olivia asked her lawyer to put the clause all the way in the back of the contract between many lines of tedious legal gibberish, hoping that the couple wouldn't notice. And her idea worked. The couple signed the deed to the house without ever realizing the contingency of their signing. Later that month, boxes were packed. Olivia's memories were carefully wrapped in newspaper and placed into cardboard container. Her children helped her move to a quiet apartment not far away. Olivia didn't say much when she left the house for the last time. She just stood there on the porch for a moment, hand resting on the rail. Then she turned, walked down the steps, and into her daughter's car. Before they drove off, she made one last request: drive past the shed. Her children didn't understand why, but they did as she asked. Olivia stared at it the way one might look at a locked diary or a buried memory. It was the only thing she didn't let go of. The new owners would move in 1 week later, but little did they know, Jonah and Judith couldn't believe their luck. The house was perfect, charming, spacious, and full of warmth. Their 10-year-old son Caleb immediately claimed the room with the best view of the orchard. They spent the first day unpacking, arranging furniture, and admiring small details that made the place feel like home. Judith smiled as she uncovered vintage tiles in the kitchen, while Jonah installed curtain rods, humming to himself. Caleb explored every corner, especially the attic. None of them paid any attention to the small shed at the far end of the property. It sat quietly in the distance, forgotten. Saturday arrived, and the couple spent the day repainting the guest bedroom, talking about hosting Thanksgiving. Caleb played quietly nearby. They worked until dusk, unaware of the shadowed structure beyond the garden's edge. On Sunday, Caleb wandered down the gravel path and found the locked shed. He tugged at the padlock, surprised by how solid it felt. "Weird," he muttered before turning back. For some reason, he didn't mention it. The first week passed without incident. That night, around 2 a.m., Caleb crept into his parents' room, pale and trembling. He whispered that he'd seen someone in the garden near the trees, heading toward the shed, and that a light had been glowing inside. Jonah got up immediately. He pulled on his boots, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped into the cold, damp air. The shed was dark and silent. The padlock still hung in place, untouched. He swept the light through the trees but saw only branches shifting in the wind. Standing still, Jonah listened to the night, uneasy, then turned back toward the house. Inside, he knelt beside Caleb's bed and assured him that no one was there. The boy insisted he'd seen something, but Jonah gently blamed it on imagination. Before going back to bed, he asked Judith, "Do we even have a key for that shed?" She frowned. "What shed?" "The one by the trees," he said. "It's locked tight." Judith looked puzzled. "I've never seen a key for it." They fell silent. "Didn't the old lady give us everything keys, papers?" Jonah asked. Judith nodded. It's all in the kitchen box, but there's nothing for that shed. It's probably nothing, she murmured, too tired to worry. The next morning, Jonah reviewed the property documents again. Strangely, the shed wasn't mentioned anywhere. Jonah stood at the counter, staring out at the gray clouds before picking up the phone to call the lawyer listed on the property deed. Can you confirm the shed was part of the sale? He asked. The lawyer paused. Everything on that land is yours. House, orchard, barn? His voice hesitated. Except the small wooden shed near the tree line. That one isn't included. Jonah froze. Not included? What do you mean? It's written in the contract, the man replied. Page 50, 2 subpart B. Jonah flipped through the thick folder until he found the clause. The words made his stomach tighten. Ownership of secondary structure A remains with original owner, Olivia M. Whitmore, for an indefinite period unless otherwise transferred in writing. She had kept it on purpose. When Jonah pressed for answers, the lawyer admitted it had been Olivia's final request. I don't know her reason, he said. I just followed instructions. Jonah stared out the kitchen window. The shed stood still and silent, almost defiant. As Jonah pondered, movement outside caught his eye. A shadow detached itself from the trees, gliding slowly toward the shed with eerie purpose. Jonah leaned closer to the window, breath fogging the glass, and then the figure came into view. The figure stepping from the trees wasn't a stranger, it was Olivia. The 85-year-old woman herself was back, moving slowly but deliberately across the yard. She disappeared into the shed, and moments later a warm, steady light spilled out from behind the closed door. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, Jonah slipped on his coat and shoes and stepped outside. Olivia moved in and out of the shed several times, carrying something small each time. She looked frail but purposeful. Jonah crouched behind a hedge, heart pounding, then moved closer. He peered through a narrow gap in the planks. Inside, garden tools lined the walls. A workbench sat at the back, and in the center stood a large box-shaped machine vibrating on the floor. Gathering his courage, he pushed the door open farther. It groaned softly, revealing the interior bathed in flickering amber light. Olivia was gone. But how? The shed was tiny, barely 8 square meters. There was nowhere to hide. Jonah stepped inside cautiously, eyes scanning every corner. The humming grew louder near the metallic cube. Walking around it, he recognized it as a generator, one far too powerful to be running just a single bulb. What are you powering? He murmured, tracing the cables that snaked from its base. One wire led up to the ceiling lamp, but several others ran across the floor, looping tightly before disappearing into a small hole near the far wall. A hidden hatch. He tugged at it, and the boards lifted with a reluctant creak, revealing a dark opening beneath. A staircase spiraled down into shadow, the steps made of old, damp wood disappearing into blackness, an entire basement under a shed that wasn't even his. Jonah placed his foot on the first step, gripping the wooden railing. At the bottom, the room opened into a wide chamber. Shelves covered the walls, tables overflowed with trinkets, and the air felt warm and still. In the center sat Olivia, clutching something close, her shoulders trembling with quiet sobs. Jonah froze. In her hands was an old, wrinkled photo of her and Walter Young, smiling, full of life. She hadn't noticed him yet. When Jonah softly spoke her name, she looked up, eyes red but calm. You found it, she said weakly, her voice heavy with emotion. Jonah glanced around. A faded army uniform hung on the wall beside a row of medals, journals, and worn gardening boots. This is all that's left of him, Olivia whispered. I didn't know where else to keep it. That apartment too small, too clean. He wouldn't belong there. Her words trembled with grief and affection. He built this basement, poured the concrete himself. It was ours. After he died, I couldn't let go. I turned it into something mine. Jonah said nothing. He understood. This wasn't a secret meant to deceive. It was a place built from love and memory. I told the truth to my kids, Olivia continued quietly. When they were little, this shed really did hold dangerous tools, blades, chemicals, things Walter used. That's why we locked it. But after he passed, I cleared it all out, piece by piece, replaced it with memories no one else would understand. Jonah sat on an old stool listening as she spoke, and they sat together in silence, surrounded by Walter's world preserved, sacred, untouched. Finally, Jonah spoke softly. What do you want us to do with it? He asked gently. I just want to visit, Olivia whispered. Now and then. Keep it as it is. Jonah nodded. We can do that. We'll keep it safe. They climbed the stairs together. Outside, sunlight broke through the clouds. Olivia looked at the orchard, then back at him. Thank you, she said softly, for understanding. That afternoon, Jonah told Judith everything. It was his space, he said simply. She turned it into a memory. Judith squeezed his hand. We'll leave it be. From then on, Olivia visited once a month. Jonah would unlock the shed before she arrived and relock it after she left. The family lived their lives around that corner of land, not strange anymore, but sacred. Seasons passed. The shed remained a small piece of love preserved by strangers who had become family. And when Olivia's time came, her ashes were placed beside Walter's uniform under the soft ceiling light. Jonah and Judith never told anyone what lay beneath the shed, but each spring, they planted flowers near the door, quiet blooms for a love that never truly died.